Jai Sudev, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Vihangam Yog Global Online Satsang. For those of you joining us for the first time, a warm welcome. For those of you who return once more, we thank you for your ongoing support. I myself am Avinav, joining from Sydney, and I'm looking forward to taking you through another week of riveting discussions and introspections into the deep waters of spirituality. I hope everyone's doing great and looking forward to the holiday season. And we're coming toward the end of a decade, which really brings upon a lot of reflection, a lot of introspection. And, over the last few weeks, we at VIGOS have been taking you through a journey through the Swarved and the secrets of Swarved. And this week, we are going to be focusing on another big component of what we term as the 4S framework. The second S, Sadhana, known also as meditation practice. In our previous session, we were joined by Vijay, where we discussed one of the components of the 4S framework. This framework, just to remind you, being composed of Seva, Satsang, Sadhana, and Swadhyay. Last week, we focused on the importance of Seva, selfless service. And this week, as I just mentioned, we moved toward Sadhana, or meditation practice. And, meditation has been a point of fascination for human society for thousands of years, even into, the modern day we live in. If we look at many famous statues of historical or religious figures, many of them represent a significant persona in a meditative state. And it really begs the question, whether we look back or we look to the present, or we look even to the future, why is meditation so important? What is it? Why meditate? What does meditation have to offer a person? What if you're already happy with your life? What if you're not happy with your life? What does meditation have to offer? And is meditation the only way to succeed on the spiritual path? And, in the last few years, we've really been moving toward meditation, in the modern world as a way to navigate our lives in a very hyper-mechanic and, information overloaded world. And today, equipped with our global panel, we'll be diving into this very topic through the lens of the ancient-most science of spirituality, the science of Vihangam Yoga, and the medium of Swarved, which is a distillation of the experiences which Anand Shri Sadguru Sadafalleji Maharaj had on his most unique journey through spirituality. And today we're joined by two illustrious speakers, two speakers with much experience, not only personal experience, but also experience, of the spiritual path itself. So first, I'd like to welcome Leela from Italy, whose spiritual journey is inspiring as an ardent seeker, and her experiences are enlightening and guide all of us, no matter what level of experience we have or don't have with the spiritual path. So firstly, welcome to you, Leela. I hope you can hear me clearly. And the second, welcome, Leela. And the second person I want to introduce today is Vijay, who is a software engineer by profession and is based out of the US. He's currently based in New Jersey, and he's serving as the president of the North American Institute of Vihangam Yoga. So welcome to you as well, Vijay. I hope you can hear me as well.
Thank you, Abhinavji, for giving me a chance.
Absolutely. So, last time we had some small difficulties reaching Leela, so I'd love to start with you this week, Leela. Just a reminder to our listeners, this week's topic is sadhana, meditation practice. And, as we kind of talked about near the start, meditation is a concept that has, stayed with us as human societies throughout time. And it brings upon the first question, which is, what is meditation? If you look at the English language, meditation seems to suggest that someone is thinking about something or ruminating over something. If you're a student of philosophy, you may know René Descartes' Meditations on First Philosophy as an example. So what is meditation? Is it the process of thinking, or is it the process of doing something? So I'd love to understand this with you first, Leela. What is meditation, and how would you define what it really means as a word and as perhaps as an activity?
Yes. Sadhana, what we call sadhana, is a spiritual discipline. And usually we accomplish daily this discipline. is the daily exercise we do to surrender our ego through meditation or generally through practices, helping us to shift from the platform of ego and connect with our inner space in the place indicated by the Sadguru, the master who know the path, having walked through and having the knowledge and the power to indicate us. Of course, it's not a pathway. I mean, we can see, as we see in the map, a direction where to go. We are going in an inner space unknown to us in the beginning. So there is a master to indicate us. And connecting with this inner space, we leave the outside world. We leave our social surrounding. And is the one which we are identified with preeminently with the ego characterizing our personality, our way of being, our acting in the social relations with the world and with people. And this ego, it keeps us framed in that personality. So people identify us in that with that mark, and at the same time, we ourselves are identified at the same I. So sadhana brings us in a space where we come in touch with the light of truth, in touch with our true nature, to be spiritual essence, existing from eternity to eternity. And bathing every day in this pool of eternity, it is our the everyday renew with our connection with the Sadguru that has enlightened the way, where we recognize ourselves as a soul and perceive ourselves mostly as a tool, not anymore identified with the personality we believe to be in the world, in the society. And so sadhana is the practice which helps us to shift from the one platform, which is consisting in our relation with the world, and going in a space which is inside. And for this, we know that what brings us in the world is our mind. And so what happened in meditation is a place where mind, it is absorbed in such a place where becomes silent. And when mind is not going outside in the external world and not bringing us all the information coming from the external world, so at that point we can perceive an energy unknown to us, but that every one of us knows inside. I mean, we are not just made by what it appears to be. Everyone is conscient that has a soul inside, so a kind of energy. And so when the mind is absorbed, this energy, it becomes clear to us. It becomes a perception, not anymore a concept. But so this meditation time is the time where we come in touch with the perception of that energy.
Thank you so much, Leela ji. I think that's a fantastic exploration. And, I think you really touched on some key parts there, which is, the status of darkness, the status of light, and how to bridge that gap, and the importance of a master, the different concepts involved, including mind and soul. That was a very exhaustive and, very introspective answer, I think. So thank you for that. I think you've really prepared us to discuss this better. And in saying this, what I've really come to understand from your explanation is that meditation is an opportunity for reconnection and transformation, which we try to, in a disciplined way, practice daily. And Vijay, I'd also love to understand from you, like your perspective on this. And there's another question we had, which is, what is the difference between going to a yoga session and practicing meditation? Are they the same thing? Is one more important than the other? What is the relationship if there is one? As Leela ji spoken to us and explained to us just now, meditation has such a deep representation within self, within our relationship to self and the world. So is there a difference between yoga and meditation? Because in the modern day, we tend to practice yoga, and then maybe sometimes we think or we confuse that with meditation. So I'd love to understand this with you, Vijay.
Thank you, Abhinayji, for the question. First of all, I offer my prayer to the Master. The question is, what is the difference between going to the yoga session and practicing meditation? Is it the same, or there is some subtle difference that we need to understand today? When we go to yoga session, what do we do in the yoga session? In the yoga session, we try to stabilize our body. We try to tune our body. We are targeting for the physical health. So yoga session could consist of some yoga poses, and some of the yoga lessons also include breathing sessions, which could be further enhancing your inner organs, the systems like digestive system, the nervous system, the breathing system. Through the practice of pranayama, through the practice of different types of pranayama, you strengthen your inner system. So overall, the yoga, which is about physical poses and the breathing together, make your body healthier than what it is before and stronger than what it is before. Few of the yoga sessions also include some sessions where you sit quietly and maybe pay attention to certain thing, or maybe just try to be thoughtless. And we learn that in the name of meditation. So we need to understand, is just contemplating or following certain guidelines and just thinking through the way it is being guided, you just follow through it, is that a form of meditation, or it is something else? In Vihangam Yoga philosophy, the meditation is not chasing the music. Meditation is neither contemplating about anything, but meditation is a process of establishing direct connection of your consciousness with the subject of meditation. So when we say the subject of meditation, what it means is there is an entity, and when you meditate for that entity, what you do is you gather your whole consciousness and direct your consciousness to that entity on which you are meditating. So meditation is the process of establishing the complete connection of your consciousness with the entity of meditation. This also coins a thought within your head that means meditation always has one entity for which you are meditating. In Vihangam Yoga, that's why there are 5 stages of meditation. And at all 5 different levels of meditation, there are different entities for which we meditate. And the result of each stage of meditation is that entity, which is not in your experience right now, because your consciousness has not established that direct connection with those entities that exist. But just because your consciousness has not been able to reach to those entities, even though they exist, for you, they do not exist because you don't experience them. So through meditation, you you ex you basically expand your domain of experience. The entity which is subtle in nature, or something which is vast in nature as well. For both scenario, unless your consciousness connect to that entity, you do not get any experience of these. So through meditation, whatever your sensory organs are not able to reach, through meditation you are able to reach to those entities. And in the process, you also transform your persona, because your experience level expand to certain dimension, after which the mental diversions, and the to say the calm, the crowd, the love, the moha, the different factor that keep your mind restless, those factors will no more be a factor of divergence, in the sense it will not disturb your calmness when you attain that enhanced experience of life through meditation. So yes, meditation is not just about contemplating, it's not about chasing any thought, but meditation is about establishing your whole consciousness connection with the entity of meditation.
Yeah, thank you, Vijay. And I think that really lays on top of what Leela ji was explaining very well as well, in that, I think from both of you have come to understand that there is a path, and there are different levels to that path. And at each level, we're trying to connect and reconnect and transform and focus ourselves in our conscious energy somewhere. And I think a very organic next thought, which came to me as well when I started on this path, is we've talked about the objective of meditation a little bit, about how at different points in the path, the objective is to focus on a different subject. And I think an organic next question for many of our listeners becomes, how does meditation assist us in life? And what if I'm already happy? So I'm already very, successful in whatever occupation I choose. I have a loving family. I have wonderful friends. What does meditation have to offer such a person? And conversely, if I'm going through a difficult period in life, what does meditation have to offer to me as well? And I think you've both touched on some of these points, but I'd love to have a focused conversation on this one. So perhaps Leela ji, if you could, guide us on this one, and then we'll get some thoughts from Vijay ji as well.
Yes, as said, every one of us, we can be happy in the world, we can be successful in the world, and still, if we give toys to a child, he can have one every moment, he will need every time one more. And just after a while, he will throw the old one and getting the new one. So in the world, it happened the same thing. We need something because we are under the push of senses, under the desire of senses, which command our acting in the world. And so we may satisfy so many desires, still there will be something which keeps us searching for something else. And at that point, it happened many times to speak with people who are very successful in the world, very happy, very beautiful, and still not happy. So what is lacking in their life? And I think everyone comes to a point where whatever it desire, understand it does not belong to the material world. And so it is called by the inside um, um, place, at the beginning may difficult to understand what it is, but then a life arranged in such a way, because we are coming from, and we know all the way, without explaining in this moment exactly, by karma, and we reach a point where we come in touch with something suggesting us about such a practice, which brings us in such a place. And probably at that time we meet also kind of personality, can be a sadguru, a guru, sadguru, who teaches us the way how to focus inside, and going in search. In the beginning, we know we are looking for kind of happiness which has no end, because we have experienced so many other kind of happiness in the world, and we know there is an end, and there is also an intensity, or we can say, of to be happy. Yeah. And we have heard about kind of ananda, what it is. So at that time, once we meet in life this kind of teaching, then we are called to go in that inner space to experience something else.
Yeah, thank you, Leela. I think that's a very, that really makes us think, right? Like, there's this concept of happiness we have, which is connected to our senses, our experience of the material world. And the question really becomes like, when we do experience this happiness, where are we experiencing it? And how are we experiencing it? Is it the body? Is it the mind? Is it the soul? Like, where is that experience happening? And as you rightly mentioned, if you look at anything that is giving you happiness today, I guess the question is, if you really analyze that source, is there an end to it? Is there a beginning to it? And is it limited in nature? And the concept you brought up of Anand, in the spiritual philosophy, from what I've understood as well, it seems that Anand has different properties to material happiness, in that it is unlimited and it doesn't have a beginning or an end. And that becomes a very compelling kind of concept to a person who has seen much of the material world. And I'd love to hear also from you, Vijay, on this point. Perhaps if you could look at, we've looked at a person who is happy. What if a person is unhappy? What does meditation have to offer?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, prior to that, little bit on the happy side as well. If we pay attention to the happiness that we are in right now, we are, if we are not somebody who have achieved the feat of meditation before, then the happiness that we have right now is dependent on certain thing outside, which is transient in nature. So of course, though you feel at this moment that I have everything all set, very favorable, and everything look very happy for me, but dear friends, we are deriving happiness, or we are triggering happiness within us based on something which is transient in nature. So this is very baffling. Though we think that we are happy, but we do not know how long this state of happiness will stay with us, because we are dependent on transient happiness. What meditation does is, instead of being dependent on anything external to trigger the happiness which is anyway coming from inside you, why not find a way, a process through which you connect to the entity of happiness which is just very inside you? This is what meditation gives. Meditation makes you blissful, happy, as your nature, not being dependent on anything for it, but happiness becomes your nature. Now, coming to how does meditation help for somebody who is going through difficult phases? During difficult phases, it is very likely that one loses the control on the body, on the mind, on the senses. The intellect stops working, all because of the restlessness. Because of the restlessness. But if one is following the process of meditation on daily basis, then despite you find a mountain standing in front of you, you do not lose the courage nor you lose the control. You know that it will take time. All you needed was just the patience and just go on. One day you will climb the mountain and the mountain will no more be on your way. So, for that to happen in you, you need a control, complete control on your body, your organs, your senses, your mind, and you also want complete focus on your effort so that you are very efficient in dealing with the problem, and you could pass through the problem with patience even though it takes time. Meditation gives you all that. So meditation, without meditation, I cannot even imagine that without meditation, how can one pass through the difficult phase with the smile on the face? When you're going through a difficult phase, and yet if you could carry the smile, this is possible only when you are still having full control on yourself, which is what the meditation gives to you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that that idea of self mastery and self control is so important, and you know, I've definitely experienced this in my own life where there are periods of difficulty, and having this consistent discipline definitely gives me some solace, somewhere to go where I can reconvene, analyze my life, settle down, and really start to look at my life from a third party perspective, and look back at myself. And I think all the things that both you, Vijay and Leela mentioned, really tie into that. And as we're listening through this and we're starting to think about what the path of meditation is, I think the next question for us really becomes, how do we keep track, or how do we note that we are progressing on this path of meditation? Is it possible to do this? Does it vary from person to person? How do we know that we're progressing? So perhaps if you could lean into this one, Leela ji, and then we'll ask Vijay ji for his thoughts as well.
Yes. Well, there is, while sadhana brings awareness, enlarge our capacity to be in any circumstances clear, determined, grounded, focused. So we can see in our behavior once even, stepping out of our place of meditation, we see all those qualities, taking place in our character. And another tracking is the one once we are in our practice and some perception arise. And we know in Swarved, the Sadguru has described wonderfully whole his journey through spirituality. And he has given also points where, what is perceived, what we can see, what we can hear, so how to recognize, as we walk into somewhere and in the map is written, you reach a certain point and a certain point and you will see this and that, and we can recognize. So in this inside map also, fortunately we have this poem of Swarved, which is enlightening us also on what we perceive, what we feel, and we can recognize, oh yes, it was mentioned in that, Doha explanation of the Sadguru about this. But in the society also, because of course it's not a practice that will stay with us only while we are sitting and meditating in the morning or in the evening, but once we step out, how it reverberates in our life. So if we are coming from a depressed life, from tensions and stresses due to work, due to family, we can see our capacity is enlarging. We feel grounded in that experience we have. So meditation is not something that it is just for the time we are sitting, but then during the day it will enlighten our life. So things we were not able to control with the mind we had before, it becomes to be clearer and focusing, and we are not very much reactive to negative situations. So we have so many kind of in the outside, the outcoming of meditation, we can say, in the world and inside. The track will be according to Swarved and to all that perception the Sadhguru has described. And sometimes we feel it's happening and we are in that place.
Yeah, and I definitely would vouch for that, even based on my personal experience, in that, at some points when I'm not sure about which way am I going, reading the divine verses of Swarved really gives a lot of insight, and it gives you the way that I've slowly come to understand this in my personal life. Just to share a small, reflection here, as we're thinking through what Vijay and Leela are explaining to us, is, there's a mountain which we are trying to climb, the mountain of spirituality, and the master is someone who has climbed this mountain in every permutation and combination possible. And so when we as seekers try to climb this mountain, the insight, the knowledge, the wisdom of the master guides us, because he has mastered the mountain, and we are trying to understand and navigate our way through the mountain. And in this state, the wisdom of the master is the light. And I'd love for you also to reflect on this one, Vijay. We have a question, which is, does meditation need to be learnt from a master? Why? What does a master provide to a practitioner of meditation? Can we do it by ourselves?
Yeah, this is a very beautiful question. See, meditation has 5 different levels in Vihangam Yoga. And right from stage 1 meditation itself, you start realizing the role of master in establishing your connection with the entity that you are going to experience at that point of concentration. Just to give little background, our master writes in Swarved, he says, Jahi bhumi jo drishya hai rahat samne aaye. Par apara jad chetan do bhed mein par apara chhavi chhaaye. So what it means is, there are different levels of meditation. At some point, at some level, you happen to experience the inert entity. Then in the advanced level, you would happen to experience conscious entity. Now, right now, if I ask any one of us that, by any means, whether using your eyes or ears or nose or tongue or skin, you have these 5 obvious sensors. By any of these sensors, are we capable to experience what consciousness is or what conscious entity is? If there is, let's say, an entity which is a conscious entity, when we say conscious entity and when we say inert entity, what it means is inert entity could have 3-dimension shape or some kind of the material involved in it, so you could sense it through your sensors. But when we say conscious entity, the conscious entities is that dimension of light and sound which your sensors are not capable to experience. So of course, when you are with this, limits, and if you're confined within these limits, you need intervention of the master to unfold within you another dimension, another sensor, to say, which is dormant right now. You're that sensor which could sense the conscious entity, and the consciousness is dormant right now. So the role of master is to not only in advanced stage awaken your sense of consciousness, but in the preliminary stage also, in the beginning stage also, his role is to keep your consciousness established, the connection of consciousness firm with the entity that you are gonna experience. So it is the master who help your consciousness to stay focused at the entity that you are trying to experience, during that meditation process. Now the obvious question would be that how can master guide my consciousness? How can master guide my consciousness in the meditation process? This question can be understood by the fact the way the magnet can guide the iron pieces into any directions by its own power of attractions. Similarly, the true Sadguru, the true master, is the one who have achieved that power of attractions within his own consciousness, so that he can apply that magnetic pull onto your consciousness and can guide your consciousness to anywhere he wants. And that's where, through the power of Sadguru, when you sit in meditation, through the power of Sadguru, our consciousness can be pulled inside and could be connected to the entity that otherwise you would not be able to connect to. This is just, one input about the role of master, but there are much more than that, which you could also reflect, Abhinavji.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's such an important thing for us to all understand that, as you mentioned, this pull, this quality of being able to pull. If you look at the way, large changes in your life, which are caused by something, at this point in your life, you might be in a certain state of consciousness where you think certain things are important, your worldview is formed in a certain way, and you need something to shake that up, or you need something to pull you out of that state toward a higher state. And as you just beautifully explained, Vijay, in the spiritual realm, to go from an inert kind of existence, which is purely inert, to one which is more conscious and aware and it has properties of self-mastery, which Leela was explaining earlier. We need a master who can pull us from one place to another place. And it brings us toward arguably the most important thing which we want to take away from today, which is meditation and all of the concepts we just heard about. They fit in the 4S framework. And the question which, we want to, and the answer or the insight we want to take away from today is primarily, how does meditation connect with the other aspects of the 4S framework? Is it the most important, or is it intended on enhancing the others? What is the relationship between it and the other S's? So the 4 S's being Seva, Satsang, Sadhana, and Swadhyay. So perhaps Leelaji, if you could, talk to this one, and then we'll speak to Vijay and hopefully have some clarity on for our listeners on this one.
Yes, as we said, sadhana is not only the time we meditate. It can be, extended from the 10 minutes to 1 hour to even 2 hours in the morning. But then day it's a long, and what it gives the sadhana. Sadhana, it reverberates in our life as a light. So whatever activity we do in the society, it becomes, kind of a seva. What is seva? Is just, we can think so much related to sadhana that is a sadhana himself. But is it the way we act in society, and done without this identification with ego, as we perceive ourselves more as a tool through which that energy, the divine energy, act in this world. So to this we give the name of seva. Which is serving without any expectation. Serving without any expectation. It happens sometime we do. We can think, anyone has gone through maybe, illness in the family, someone or in the relations, friends get sick. And what we do in that situation? We do whatever is possible to make, other person comfortable and good and clean, and without any thinking of ourselves in that time. I mean, we don't care about our eating, our sleeping, but we dedicate full service to that person. And we're not thinking of what is coming back to me, of course. So this service coming from the deep love we have for someone, or in extended way after sadhana, we can see whatever we see, we see with another light, another understanding. So it will be permeated with love. So whatever it becomes a seva. Acting without thinking of ourselves. I lose my identification. I become a tool from where the divine energy operates. As I heard many times from Sri Vigyan Devji Maharaj, when he speaks about, he says, as a river carry water, and he is not thirsty of that water. His aim is just to reach the sea. So in all the way is serving other along the banks, giving his water, but not drinking himself his water. So this is the seva, and is the reverberation of sadhana in our service in society. We come into life, into a planet where the divine energy has provided us the prana, has provided us food, has provided us water to quench our thirst, to eat, to make us taking breath, to live. And whatever we do in the world, it has to be or characterized as a seva. Satsanga, what it is? Satsanga, it is our time to be in the light of truth, whether it happened through discussion, whether it happened through association with sense, with people, whatever, but it is present, the argument, it is truth. Whatever it is truth. Whatever is truth is what is not related to any geographical, historical, tradition or place. Truth means whatever it's for eternity. It was existing, it will exist. So once we analyze our life, what we live, in which feeling we live, and we try to put away, whatever it is related to my place, to my tradition, to my religion, to my cultural understanding. What it remains, that is true, that is the eternal truth. So satsanga is to live with that consciousness of what it is, eternal truth. And so we will dedicate more and more time to those truths instead of so many other activity keep us, busy in the world. And one helps the other, we can say. And so they are all important. Swadhyay, the deep listening, because see, there are certain situations when still, doing sadhana, doing seva, practicing seva, but still sometime our mind goes into some object which we don't have a desire to go, but mind, it's not coming from a long bad habits. So at that time we take the help of Swadhyay to analyze why, to listen deeply, why we are behaving in such a way. So in our spiritual journey, we have to take advantage of all these four, how we say, as framework: the sadhana, seva, satsanga, and swadhyay, all important and linked each other.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful explanation, and I think a fantastic way for us to end our discussion this week. So thank you, Leela ji, and thank you, Vijay, for joining us this week. I think we're all very lucky to learn from your experiences and the wisdom that you have. So thank you for joining us, and I really hope that we're able to have another conversation in the near future. With this, we come toward the end of another week on the Vihangam Yoga Global Online Satsang. This week's topic, just again, was the secrets from Swarved, realizing the genius within us using the 4S framework. The second S, Sadhana, meditation practice. I think today, with the help of Leela ji and Vijay ji, we were really able to dive really deeply into what the importance of meditation is. Regardless of our status in life, it's worth analyzing what the sources of our happiness are. Is there a dependency on the outside, or have we opened that portal to within? And upon opening this portal within, and then upon becoming still, the reverberations of being in that state of consciousness help us, help the people around us, help us reflect on our lives, and help us, approach and analyze what is true and what is not true. So meditation has a key place in the spiritual lifestyle, and it interacts with all the other components of the 4S framework. I hope you're all able to join us in coming weeks as we look into the last two components of the 4S framework, and as we continue this journey into the depths of spirituality. So thank you, everyone. Jai Sudev, and have a great week ahead.
शांति प्रदान कर, दूर हो सर्व अशांति, देव सदा फल शांतिमय, शांति शांति सुख शांति।